Hello, everybody, and welcome to Toy Geeks. My name is Jay Gladfelter from Geek Dad Life.
And I'm Dan Larson from Secret Galaxy.
And we're here to dive into your favorite toy lines 1 year at a time. And Dan, we've reached it, the last year of the 80s.
Whew. It's already. Already we are here.
When did we start this podcast? I don't remember. Like this series.
A long time ago. Yeah.
September, maybe?
Yeah, it's so long that I don't even remember what we already covered. Mask, Ghostbusters.
No, we haven't done Ghostbusters yet. Beetlejuice.
We didn't do Ghostbusters yet.
We haven't done Ghostbusters.
We talked about Ghostbusters a little bit with Beetlejuice.
Yeah. And then Masters of the Universe and McFarlane Lost. I think that's what we've covered so far. But joining us, we have a special guest to kick off our last year. We're going to split up 89 again, right? We're splitting up 89? I think so.
We'll see how this episode goes. We'll see where we're at in about 58 minutes. I got things to do.
Dan doesn't, he's not, you're not too confident in maybe how much we're going to like these figures today.
I don't know. Python Patrol's in here, and we got a couple of groups of repaints that we can just skip right over.
Yeah. So maybe it's a part one. Maybe it's not. Maybe we'll round it out. But joining us is a very special guest, a toy designer, been all the way from Four Horsemen Studios to doing work for McFarlane Toys, most recently with the Superpowers toy line. Please give a warm welcome to Owen. And I actually probably should have learned how to pronounce this. Oertling?
It's Oertling. So it's Oertling. O-E is kind of like an E. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Oertling. Did I do that right? Oertling.
German. If you ask it German, they say it totally differently, so it's fine.
I'll find out. I'm going to be in Nuremberg in 2 weeks, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ask them.
But Owen, it's so awesome to have you. I love
you.
When we've had all sorts of guests, but I love when we get like an actual toy maker on the show. But also, I mean, if people are watching this at home, you see you're a toy collector as well.
Yeah. I've been a toy nerd my whole life. I've kind of never stopped collecting, since I was a kid. I think the 95 Power of the Force 2 stuff hit right at the end of where I should have, stopped collecting toys or playing with toys. So it just kind of continued. So.
It's crazy how many people cite that line specifically as I was either out or I was almost out or I came back or whatever. It's like, that's the big point that brought a bunch of people back. I never left, so.
Yep. Good for you.
Well, it is interesting. I would love to maybe like do a survey and see like what percentage, because Dan, you are right. We've had, quite a few guests on this show, and, I would say probably more than 50% have cited the 95 and even beyond, just in conversations with countless toy collectors.
Yeah.
Because it was such a seminal moment in toys and toy collecting, because it was at that perfect inflection point for a lot of people where you're either in your teens, maybe 20s, whatever, and you probably left and then you came back, and that was a big one for a lot of people. But Owen, what was toy collecting to you as a kid, or like just having toys as a kid? What were some of your favorite toy lines growing up?
Oh, all the normal ones that it started with He-Man. Mm-hmm. And I think even that, I was born in 83, so I was probably getting most of them from garage sales. My mom was a big garage sale person, so we got everything, but all used mainly. Mm-hmm. Remember, I needed the original He-Man, and I didn't get that until much later when they, I guess, re-released it, and some.
Oh, the Toys R Us ones, or
no, like probably 85 or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
One of the re-releases of it.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted just the normal He-Man that was on the cartoon. But then, I think G.I. Joe was a constant. I think I've said that before to people. Through He-Man, Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, everything. G.I. Joe was always there, from the He-Man times, the Ninja Turtle times, to the Star Wars times, and so. It's been interesting because I collected through the 90s and a little bit beyond, and so always kind of there.
Well, what was it about G.I. Joe that was kind of your constant in like, what was about it that made it that
I
through
think,
line
you
for
know,
you?
it was the articulation, you know, starting in He-Man, G.I. Joe had more posability. And then the scaling was really cool. Like we would play with GI Joes on the He-Man stuff. We had like the Spider
Oh.
Walker, and like putting a little GI Joe in the big Spider Walker was amazing, you know. And then or
Yeah.
in the castles or stuff. And then my mom being garage sale person, like we had Rolling Thunder because, and it wasn't all complete. And we had the whale and, you know, stuff like that. That was huge, but it was just like the shell, you know, it was, you know, all the missiles were gone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we did the Rolling Thunder last week, and there's plenty of missiles to go around. So if you lost like a half of them, you still have like 20, I think.
Yeah, I think it was mostly like the turrets, you know, all the seatable turrets around. We had the big missiles on the inside, and all the missiles on the inside of that, probably because nobody actually took them out.
Yes.
But all the stuff on the outside was gone. Yeah. No, that it's weird when you talked about it. I was like, I can still hear those wheels because they squeaked in a very specific, you know, timbre. It's like I can still hear it.
Yeah, what a different vehicle that would have been if it had giant knobby rubber tires, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, you know, I feel like we were not the biggest fans of a lot of it. There were some we were really all about, but the wheels for I think just about every vehicle that wasn't, you know, a re-release had that just very hollow plastic with the little kind of latching peg system, and it cheapens it. But anyway,
and at some point they stopped putting the like the engine details in with the covers and stuff like that. So
and because Dan, I think you've said like one of your favorite parts about getting the vehicles when you're a kid is like it was like a Lego, it was like this thing that you put together, a model that you put together. And losing that, I think, was losing a big piece of what made those special. Okay, so always collected GI Joe. So you went through the entirety of Real American Hero. Did you get back into when it was like they brought the 12-inch figures back into the thing?
I had a couple of the 12-inch figures. You know those the what were they called?
I don't remember.
Yeah, but with the version 4 Snake Eyes, that line. Yeah, I had a few of those. I think we had Gung Ho in his, you know, blues, and then Snake Eyes and another Snake Eyes. It's like a couple of Snake Eyes here and there.
I remember that. I probably talk about whenever we get into the 90s, but I just felt like it was like, oh my God, this is a big deal. They brought back the full-size G.I. Joe. Oh my God.
It was a big deal.
Yeah. And then I think I even got some of those Sergeant Savage ones, and that was...
Oh, I had those too. Yeah.
But I didn't do the extreme. I think that was my cutoff. The
that was the line you drew.
The McFarlane-esque G.I. Joe line.
Awesome. And then, so you said Power of the Force when you got back into or becoming a toy collector. What did you get back into Joe's like with 25th or like what was your...
Yeah, I remember when they, you know, the Toys R Us re-releases, what was that, 2001 or something? I got a couple of those sets. Then I got, I did get some of the, what were they? The G.I. Joe versus Cobra, the Venom.
Valor versus Venom, yeah.
I would get those occasionally, like not all of them, but, you know, Snake Eye, when good Snake Eyes came out, and, you know, occasionally a figure here or there. But I think that was what, like Revenge of the Sith era and like going into whatever the more modern stuff was.
Yeah.
Kmart days.
Kmart, Walmart, Target, any new Star Wars release was a lot of fun. It's weird. It's not really related, but there's a new Nintendo Switch coming out, right? And then the Switch has been around for a while now, since like 2017 or something. But somebody mentioned on Twitter or maybe Blue Sky, they were like, it's going to be weird not like getting a new Nintendo from Toys R Us. This will be the first Nintendo release post Toys R Us, which is kind of weird. But anyway, and so, you know, you transitioned from toy collector to toy maker. Like, how did that come about?
I was always an artist as well. Both my parents are artists. My dad was a Chinese art historian and taught at the local college. I grew up in upstate New York. and my mom was a sculptor. She was a kindergarten teacher, and she was an artist in college and continued that. And then she kind of dropped it while she brought my brother and I up, and then she's kind of picked it back up. And her stuff is really crazy weird.
Fun.
Yeah, like very morbid and very found object-y kind of stuff.
Oh, cool.
But they were both artists, and my dad was a painter. And so going to college, I majored in art, kind of found my way into sculpture. My professor was a figure sculptor, so I kind of, and I, was collecting toys. So I always had this kind of like, that would be cool to do, but never even knew there were programs out there to do it. And then after college, I followed a girl to New Jersey, and
you knew her.
I knew her. Vaguely, but and so I ended up in New Jersey and found out that the Four Horsemen were kind of right down the road in one of those like He-Man.org or Toy Fair articles, and kind of looked them up on the early stages of the internet, like white pages or whatever, and they were there. So I just blind called them and kind of told them my story, told them I was an artist, told them I wanted to be in the industry. I was also getting my master's degree at Montclair State in New Jersey. So kind of had this like, I want to learn your process to bring into my art, but I also interested in trying to do this. And they were like, yeah, sure. And I think, first time I went there, they were just like, why do you want to do this? No, this is not profitable. Like, you shouldn't get into this. And I think I remember Jim just being like, people just customize, they just tear apart toys and they make their own toys. I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. I didn't want to just make stuff. For some reason, I wanted to be in the industry. I wanted to know how the stuff was made. So,
but it's like, sure, I would assume the Four Horsemen get a lot of emails. Like there may be other companies like. So, like, how do you get your foot? Like, they just work? Like
literally, my life, I am very privileged. I walk into situations and I go, I'm here. And somehow it works out. So,
hey, that's honestly, I'm going to say this is not the first time I've heard someone tell a similar story about just getting in the door. Literally, the old get your foot in the door and then hope, something else happens and you can prove yourself and whatever. A friend of mine got his start. I think it was it wasn't Jazzwares. It was Palisades. It was Mezco. It was Mezco all the way back in the day. And he literally started out just sweeping the floor. They needed a guy to sweep the floor in the warehouse. He got the job knowing that he wanted to literally backdoor it to get into the toy industry.
Yeah. And I think I just started working for peanuts, and I think literally they fed me peanuts. No, but they had the fantastic exclusive thing running, the Minotaur kind of fan voting thing, and I was already like in that whole thing, and so I was one of the people on the forum. So I think they probably felt there was a little bit of that early viral kind of, oh, one of you is here now kind of a thing. I don't know if that was it, but I also just proved myself useful, right? So I cast, they did a very low run of busts of that Minotaur, so just the torso up to the head, and I would resin cast those for them and clean them up and get them. I think we just did a faux bronze paint job on them, and so it was like that was my job. And then when that was done, I didn't come back for a little while until they got into that DC license, the bigger DC license, and they had a lot of work to do in that prototyping area. And so then I just started molding and casting a lot, not all the time. It was always part-time with them, but it was very, fairly consistent for, 10 years.
That's awesome.
And I got kind of always balanced, 5 or 6 jobs at a time at that point, as an artist. So I was making props for Broadway. I was doing carpentry for Fashion Week in New York City. I taught sculpture for 10 years or more. At the university I got my master's at, and I made cabinets. I hope, a cabinet company doing installations, whatever paid the bills, really.
Yeah.
Mowing lawns, whatever.
But I think I appreciate you sharing, because there's probably people out there even right now. It's like, God, it'd be cool. Like I could do this. I want to, make figures or whatever. And it just like, it's a lot of work, right? It's not for the faint of heart.
No,
right?
I mean, it took me 10 years to even get to the point where I felt confident, even a little bit, to apply to a serious, like, total sculpting fabrication job.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I, kind of had imposter syndrome with it. But, at this point now, I'm doing it every day. So it feels good. Yeah.
I made it. Took 20 years, but I'm here.
I'm 42 years old. So, yeah.
It's
awesome.
look, that's a pretty common story as far as a lot of artists and a lot of freelance illustrators, that sort of thing. It's like you see the thing you want to do, you admire the creators, you just have no idea how they got there. And especially back in the 90s and early 2000s, before the internet really took hold, there was just no outlets. I had a very similar story. I was at an art school, I was in figure sculpting class, all of this stuff, and I'm looking at action figures, and I'm looking at comic books, I'm looking at animation. I'm like, I want to do all of these things, but none of my professors had any idea what the path was to get there. They were just fine art teachers. You want to grind a limestone? Here you go. You want to like carve a wood block? Here you go.
And the thing, with especially last generations of fine art teachers, they do not like the crust between production art and fine art, and which is strange because plenty of artists do that. Nowadays, I think there is much more of a headiness about pop culture, and incorporating those things together. But
I got very lucky because my main professor knew that knew that comics was what I wanted to do, and so I was doing a weekly strip in the campus newspaper.
Oh, that's awesome!
And he was basically grading me on that.
Oh, that's
great. Nice,
awesome.
Nice.
He was like, I do my final portfolio review, it was all like woodblock prints and stuff, and he was like, all right, well, these are over here. He's like, I've seen how your work has evolved in your strip. Like, why don't you pull some of those pages out? And I was like, yes, I like you. This is the best way. That was a lot more. I was incorporating all this figure drawing and light and dark and shape and value and all these other things. He got it. I really appreciate that. He was a big fan of comics.
Yeah,
he had woodblock prints that were like Shogun Warriors and all kinds of
that's cool
figures and stuff. So it was kismet that we met.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
I think nowadays it's hard because now there's all these programs, and you could go to one of these and some of them are in like for-profit institutions where you're just paying tons of money and never graduating, and if you're not good enough, they won't give you the time of day. They didn't like. I had 10 people who are good.
I had one friend. She went out of state for art school, over $100,000 in debt, and no path forward. And it's just like, oh my God, Whew. Well, anyway, toys. Let's go into what we're here to talk about today, which is 1989 for G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Our wonderful researcher, Allison Troy, teed us up with an overview. I'll jump into that now. Stephen Hasfield, chairman and CEO of Hasbro, who had been a major force in the resurrection of G.I. Joe brand as G.I. Joe Real American Hero, passed away in June of 89 after several years of being ill. I believe it was HIV. He hid his illness from everyone until the very end. His brother Alan would take over as chairman and CEO of Hasbro. On the design front, Mark Pennington, who took over from Ron Rudat, actually left the line in 88, but his design still appeared on the shelves in the 89 line. Guy Cassidy, who had been a vehicle designer for the line starting in 1985, transitioned off the brand in 1989, although several of his designs would not be finalized by other designers and released until after he was off the brand. He was labeled the king of the big vehicles and had a hand in the Defiant Launch Complex, the Mobile Command Center, Rolling Thunder, and in 1990's Cobra Hammerhead. On the packaging front, Ed Morrill and CLS&M, who had handled the packaging art for Real American Hero from its inception and was responsible for the iconic art up until this point, including Bobcat from 1988. I don't know if you saw that when we gave the Max the Bobcat a really hard time.
Yeah, I was watching.
CLS&M opted to part ways. Some of this was due to the passing of the CEO and chairman. Behind the scenes, in July '89, Hasbro acquired Coleco, which was bankrupt at the time, for $85 million. This would begin in earnest Hasbro's acquisition of failing toy companies over the next few years. In '89, company sales would be listed at over $1.4 billion. However, '89 G.I. Joe sales were roughly half of what they'd been at their height in 1986. In '89, several new factions were introduced. We had Night Force return with more mold reuses, recolors as Toys R Us exclusives. We had Slaughter's Marauders, was 100% paint, repaint, reuse. Let's see. Python Patrol, which we're going to get into. It's almost like Tiger Force, but paint.
So these are all new factions this year?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But it's again 100% repaint, reuse, kind of like Tiger Force. Yeah. Tiger Force saw no new figures released, but 2 further repaint vehicles were released in '89. The final Battle Force 2000 figure in the original RAH line was released this year in the form of DJ, and the final original Dreadnought Nagahide was released. Repaints of Battle Force Dodger and DJ would be released in 90 and 93 respectively, and repaints of Road Pig and Zartan in 91 and 93, but no new characters would be released for either faction before the end of the line in 1994. Neither faction would receive further vehicle releases until various survival lines in the 2000s. Also not quite a faction, but a new smaller vehicle scale debuted with 4 vehicles dubbed Battlefield Robots. There was no battle pack release for this year, with the last one seeing release in '88. There were 2 pack-ins in '89. 20 different micro figures were released with specially marked figures, and some figures included camo face paint as pack-in. The original cartoon series by Sunbow in '88. In '87, there was the movie that was broken up into the episodes. But then the deal with Geek was lucrative. With the Geek series was a continuation of the Sunbow storylines, focusing primarily on newer characters like Sergeant Slaughter and Hawk. The first episode would not debut until 1990. However, in '89, the Geek series debuted as a 5-part mini-series. There was a modified version of the original G.I. Joe theme called Operation Dragonfire. The story primarily focused on the Baroness helping Cobra Commander return to human form and ousting Serpentor as the leader of Cobra with a coup. This is the animated debut of Cobra Commander's battle suit, which Dan is a big fan of. Action Force figures are still about a year behind the U.S. release, and more G.I. Joe branding supplanting the Action Force brand. That is 1989 in a nutshell, which basically is just a lot of people like, all right, I'm out, or it's time to go.
Not a lot of love for that Deke cartoon out there.
I guess I'm of no opinion. But what's the broad strokes why people don't like the Deke cartoon?
It's just not the same quality. It's a different animation style, different voice acting, different. There's just a lot that's different about it. And then at this point, you're 4 refreshes deep into roster and costuming and all of that stuff.
It's interesting because I don't think I even knew there was a change when I was a kid. You know, it's just like, oh, okay, G.I. Joe. There it is.
Yeah, for sure. No, it took years before I realized there were different comic book artists.
Yeah, for sure.
And like styles and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever knew the difference, but I was younger. I probably wouldn't be able to track that. Other than knowing Deke was what the real Ghostbusters cartoon, whoever made that. That little Deke. That's my brain. All right. Should we jump into the figures?
Do it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's bring them up here. I'm using 3D Joes. Dan usually uses Yo-Joe.
Yeah, I'm on Yo-Joe right now. It's got the spreadsheet.
But first up, we'll bring up Alley Viper, the Cobra Urban Assault Trooper. I know, Dan, you're saying the '89 is not great, but I think this figure is a slam.
No, that's the weird thing is as far as '89 is concerned. A lot of these I'm just like, but Alley Viper is like a top 5.
I think
I can't get him any closer to that.
Everybody's favorite.
Love the Alley Viper so much. A lot of people don't love the blue and orange color style, but I love it so.
It's great.
It's perfect. And then the little visor's perfect. The way the gun goes through the shield is perfect. Attaching everything to the pack is perfect. Like, it's such a damn good figure.
Yeah, that pack is so cool. You always wanted like the grapple gun to come off and all the gizmos on there. It was cool on the classified when that came out. That that grapple gun coming off was a big deal. And now I hardly take it off at all. But
yeah, no, it's enough to know that it can come off.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
you don't have to actually take it off for anything. Yeah, no, I love the design of that shield. Like I'd never seen anything like that before, especially not in a G.I. Joe line. Even just the contrast of, the black boots, backpack, and gloves and weapons against that blue and orange. It all just works so well. I have a gallon bag full of these guys right now.
Oh, nice.
I love this figure so much. And then that love transferred over to classified. I had to draw a line at 5. I was going for 10, but I said, you know what, you can just draw the line at 5.
I think we only had, as a kid, I don't think army building was even a thought.
Nope.
You're lucky if you got one.
Well, that was the thing, is you didn't want to spend, if you could get another new figure, you wouldn't get a duplicate figure of the one you already had.
Exactly.
This was my brother's. There's a lot of those where it's like, oh, that was my brother's.
Same. Same. Yeah. And I do not like, we're looking at the card art here. We can see the card art. The visor doesn't match the way it rests on the figure's face. Way better on the figure than the way it looks on the card
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
And usually the card art helps you like fill in the gaps of the figure, right?
Yeah.
It like helps tell that story and makes you like it more. Oh, this is how it should look. Oh, okay. There's that like translation.
It's like that, your own suspension of disbelief of like, okay, that's what I'm actually envisioning here when I play with this toy.
But I remember even as a kid grabbing this thing, and so this is 89. I'm 13.
Yeah, I was going to ask,
like,
is this a lifted figure? Or did you buy this figure?
I honestly don't remember. I'm pretty sure this was a purchase. I don't think this one actually was Steph did. I think this was a Easter break at grandparents' house at the store. The wallet gets a little easier to take advantage of with the parents and stuff. You're on vacation, it's like, can I get a guy? But I even remember looking at this card art and thinking, I don't know what this artist was looking at with that visor. It was not this figure, because that is not at all what it looks like.
I agreed. Did you have this one? Oh, so you said it was your brother. You said
it was my brother's. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely played with it a lot. Yeah, it's great. The shield, and then the way they had to manufacture the shield was with the cut through to the handle. So you always were wondering, like, can you shoot through there? Like, is a bullet going to get through there? Get your hand?
Yeah, it was a force field there, obviously.
Yeah.
Clearly. It's a slam dunk of a figure. Alphabetically, it's the first one we did, but maybe it's probably going to be all downhill from here.
No, I'll raise some of them up. Don't worry.
Okay, all right.
I've got good memories of life.
All right, let's move on from the Alley Viper to the Annihilator, Destro's Elite Trooper. I like this one. He's got weird vibes.
And you better like this one.
Oh, I always thought it worked very nicely with the Alley Viper. It's a very, very similar color scheme. You got that sort of the gold cord on the front of his armor there, which classes him up a little bit. And then I dig the little helicopter.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a Boba Fett kind of thing to it, right? Not color scheme, but he's got a flying pack like the old school. But
it's
weird. This is an Iron Grenadier, right?
I don't know if he is.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Is he? Okay.
And so I always thought there was a bunch of these Iron Grenadiers that came out that weren't the color scheme of like soldiers and Destro. And you're like, if this was in black and red or black and gold or whatnot, it would be a much cooler figure. And so I'm hoping they do that with a lot of these ones in classified.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but it's a weird thing. Like you would have just thought like Python Patrol, Tiger Force, Night Force, Iron Grenadiers. Why isn't he in the same color scheme?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I love this guy. I think I lost parts of his backpack and found them over the years. And his gun was one of my favorite guns. This like Uzi MP5 kind of looking thing. And I think they used that in the Geek cartoon or one of them as like one of the main guns for Cobra.
I always appreciated this figure. It wasn't one that I owned, so I don't have that real nostalgic pull for it. But it was one that I got later, and I did appreciate the sort of almost like, we go back to those mask accessory packs that gave him the skis and the helicopter and all that other stuff. It's like that blade, that rotor, not only does it spin, but it pivots.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's also got the 2 additional sort of handle controls that are also like weapons.
Yep.
Well, one's the sort of handbrake,
Yes.
and the other one's an
Yes.
actual weapon.
Yeah.
I just always liked that. There was a lot of thought and a lot of play value in that. And this feels almost like a, some of these designs, I don't know which ones specifically were carried over, but it does feel more like a carryover from a previous generation.
And they made in the 25th, they made that mask character out of this guy's
Matt
backpack.
Tracker. Yep.
Yeah, so that kind of tracks too.
Literally. Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, and he's got the cowboy gun holsters that on this are useless, but I'm hoping in classified we'll get some.
Oh, that they're actually functional.
Yeah, laser gun.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
This is another one though that's like, this is an army builder trooper. Like Annihilator is plural. He's an annihilator.
Yeah,
you could have a whole squad of annihilators.
Yeah, sure. Just put
it's like eels versus eels. Like, I don't know. It was weird naming convention there.
It is, and I dig the color. I love the more vibrant looks, and Alley Viper and Annihilator, great color schemes.
That's one thing I remember talking to a designer friend of mine about classified is at one point it was getting very beige green, and we needed more color in there, and I think they're starting to make those pops of color here and there.
I think what we're also seeing there is the retro collection really tends to push the color, so you can still get your drab realistic looks in the baseline, and then if you really want that pop of color, and I think Snow Serpent's a really good example of that.
Where
you had those sort of for
Snow
sure.
Serpent.
They really push the color on the retros.
All right, well, let's go on from Annihilator to Backblast, the anti-aircraft soldier. There's a lot going on here. If you're listening to this, he's got like a 3-part bazooka, huge bandolier of bullets, and a knife on his arm.
I think that's a sword on his arm.
yeah, exactly. That's not a knife. It's a knife. Owen, what's your thoughts on Backblast?
He's got some punch to him, man. I did not have this one. I love the knife holster on the arm.
Yeah, that's fun.
I always like those where you can interact with the smaller accessories. But yeah, he's cool. He's got that bandolier. That bandolier's oversized. Everything's oversized on this guy.
It is.
The guy. But pretty cool. I remember seeing card art, looking at the back of the cards. I think we still have a box of just our backing cards that we just
nice,
go through.
nice.
Yeah.
I love finding like collections, childhood collections, and there's always that, that little plastic box that you'd use for file cards or whatever, or like recipes or something.
Yeah, recipe box.
Recipe box. Dan, what's your Backblast thoughts?
You know what? He's almost invisible to me. Like, I just didn't like him. If I would have seen him on the shelf, I would have passed him so quickly. Like, there's nothing. When you've got Alley Vipers and Annihilators and some of the other guys that are in this year of release, like, this would have just been an absolutely invisible figure to me. I would not have given it a second look. I definitely, as a toy dealer, I saw that 3-pocket, the rocket launcher itself, like in every bin I ever got of G.I. Joe stuff, of late 80s, early 90s toys. It was always in there, and I never knew who it went to. And I will always forget about like Backblast. Oh, it's a G.I. Joe thing, because it doesn't feel like a G.I. Joe thing.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it would have attached to a vehicle.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be able, like, even though I have a fairly encyclopedic knowledge of toys in general, it's like, I wouldn't be able to tell you that guy's name if I saw him.
Yes.
I'd say, okay, he's a G.I. Joe, and he's probably a real G.I. Joe, but not a Lanard or something. But
it's Go Army. He's my favorite. Go Army.
Go Army. It's the logo T-shirt thing going on.
That's a T-shirt cannon on his shoulder.
Yes. I'm reading Allison Troy's notes here on the figures. No reuse. All new parts for Backblast here. So.
Yeah, that bandolier is comically large.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. It's like they use it to pull it from like a different figure or something. Like a 4-inch scaled figure or something. All right, that's Backblast. Let's keep moving on here to Countdown. 4, 3, 2, 1. You know, we love astronauts, but this one's a little, this color scheme makes it a little bit boring to me. Dan, what's your thoughts on Countdown?
I dig him. I do wish G.I. Joe never really was able to do the translucent visor thing. You know, like there's lots of figures that would have just been so much better with their helmets if they'd had translucent visors, because it's got a removable helmet. And so that scores points with me. Absolutely. Space guy, removable helmet, cool jetpack looking thing. I could give or take the gun, but I think if I'm not mistaken, this has sort of that web store functionality of the zip line nature of his backpack. I think
maybe sounds right,
but I didn't mind the color scheme. Color scheme's fine with me. I just really always wanted that visor to be translucent.
Yeah, I agree. Owen, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I never had this one. I remember seeing the artwork on the back of the card, and my eyes could never see what was going on, especially in the little image. And now seeing him on this, it's like he is cool. Like I always like the ribbing that goes down like on the Viper's pant legs and stuff, that motorcycle padding. And he's got a lot of that. But yeah, his color scheme's pretty boring.
Well, it looks cooler in the art. Yeah. Like the helmet seems so much more, I don't know, so much more stuff going on than when you actually get in the figure.
Read the card art very well, like in the face. It's hard to like understand.
Yeah. There's a lot more going on in the helmet and the card art than
it's supposed to be like a reflection of like a star in his.
I think so.
Because I keep seeing like an eye, like a robot eye.
Yeah, well, I'm having trouble telling by the art whether the top visor part is where his face would be or the lower mouth part. You know, it's very clear on the figure.
It kind of looks cooler on the card art because of that.
See, I was going to say cooler on the figure. But there's definitely that sort of unified look, because that ribbing, that padding that goes up the side that you were just talking about matches the sort of texture of the part that's on the helmet. It looks very reptilian on the card.
Yes.
Maybe it was a cobra that got
so
reused.
Weird. Yeah. Like he almost looks like we're not going to get to the manimal figures, the aliens and stuff later on, but he almost looks like you could, take that helmet off and there's like a monster head under there.
Sure.
And that his legs split down that seam and become like a weird four-legged, alien monster guy. Maybe I'm reading too much. I'd be reading too much into it. I don't know. Seeing what I want to see.
I
like it. I like it.
I remember hating those Manimal figures when they came out in KB Toys, and now I look back at them like, I gotta find those somewhere. They look so cool.
Yes, I love the aliens. I have all the aliens.
All right, countdown. Let's move on to DJ. Turn that music up. Comtech Trooper, a Battle Force 2000.
Comtech.
Wait, is he from the Phantom Menace line?
Yeah, Comtech reader. What?
Hey, it's Hasbro. Probably.
Yeah, they own it. Yeah, they're fine. They're good. Okay. Owen, where do you stand on Battle Force 2000? Dan and I were not too kind. Some of our listeners called us out on it. Where do you stand on Battle Force 2000?
I remember somewhat liking them when they came out.
Okay.
And I think looking back at them, I like the idea. I like the sci-fi elements of G.I. Joe. Some of the designs can certainly be pushed a little bit more, but this guy's not my favorite. This guy looks like a Lanard Space Force guy, or the Chap May, or whatever one was doing those. The drugstore 5-pack of space guys.
The core,
the core, But he's odd colors for sure.
That's my favorite Battle Force. Like the color schemes are, I don't know, not ideal. And then this guy just looks like a space cop kind of like it just.
He is just gold chrome away from being Captain Power. Like,
that would be fun.
His suit is almost exact. Like the helmet is almost the same.
There's one in with the shooting weapons, the Battle Core. There's one that's almost exactly Captain Power. It's like blue and gold.
Yes.
That helmet.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. It's funny. We've talked about like I don't know where my lines are as far as like what I like, what I don't like. It's just kind of like you get your impression and then it sticks with you. I would almost like this guy more if it was from a completely different line of toys. For whatever reason,
yes,
this and a lot of Battle Force 2000, like we talked about previously, just didn't hit with me as being G.I. Joe. I don't know why.
I do think on Battle Force 2000, the artwork on the package I like a lot more than how the figures turned out.
Yep.
Maybe not with this guy, but
not a good example.
But I do think there is.
Look at his knee. It looks like a sling.
Yeah, no. He's got some weirdness going on there.
Oh no!
I was gonna say that gun is what really breaks it for me. I'm good with just about everything there except that gun.
That gun showed up later on in those gun trees, I think. So I definitely had a version of that gun, but it wasn't that one.
This was all new parts here, but the mold was reused for DJ version 2 in 1993. But
this, according to his file card, DJ was the baddest, hottest disc jockey in Boston before he signed up for Battle Force 2000. Complicated sound equipment was no problem for him. It is loaded with transistors, portable, and transmits or receives radio waves. DJ can make it work, fix it, and coax strange sounds out of it with an infectious beat. And if there's anything you need on the front lines, it's battle music.
He needed a guitar or something.
He's a modern, the drummer, on the front lines. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's DJ. Let's keep moving on to Deep Six version 2, the Deep Sea Diver.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I dig him. Owen, what's your thoughts on Deep Six version 2?
I did not have him, but he is pretty cool. He's got that old school scuba gear.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'd love to see this in classified too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
That gear.
Oh yes. Agreed.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, he's missing the clear visor. You're right.
He has another Dan note.
The whole thing, like neck down, he looks fantastic. Removable helmet, but it just falls apart because there's nothing on that helmet. It is just a
now. General Hawk with the backpack. Does he have a clear? I think he has a clear visor, right? With the
and he's after this, so we haven't gotten up to him yet. So I don't know if they broke the code on that technology later on. And it's crazy because the original Deep Six has a full clear dome.
You're right. It's
just not removable. And
Yeah.
actually, Ace did too in the Sky Striker.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And his helmet was removable. This one for me, I don't know if you guys grew up with Fisher-Price's Adventure People at all, but there's that Bell Diver helmet. He came with the treasure chest and the octopus. That was one of those toys that I played with so much as a little kid. So when this one was finally released, oh, nice, yeah, awesome.
Flea market
Constructs. I think.
Oh, flea market. Fine, hold on. We'll go big screen.
Oh, is this a Constructs guy?
I think that's Constructs guy. Oh no. I'm sorry. You're right. That is Adventure People. I thought that was the other one. Yeah.
Constructs are a little smaller, but yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. So when this finally came out, it was almost like, okay, here's a fully articulated version with a removable helmet of that Bell Diver helmet that I've been playing with since I was, 5 years old.
Yeah,
for sure.
And he's got a gun.
Yeah.
Shoot that octopus in the face.
Exactly. Back off.
But he didn't come with the octopus, did he?
No.
He should have. Yeah.
So good. And not for nothing, but Deep Six, being able to like bend his knees and elbows.
Finally. Now he's great. I like the color scheme too. Like sometimes this olive drab is kind of boring, but I dig it with the what is that, light blue and powder blue.
And he's one of the few figures that I feel like his 25th anniversary version was not as good as his vintage version. Like a lot of the times they upgrade. It's just not the whole attachment piece, the whole sort of bracket that attaches onto his shoulders is really loose. And those figures were all very skinny.
Yes.
He just didn't get that bulk of that, underwater diver suit. Just not as good.
Yep. All right. Well, let's keep moving on from Deep Six to downtown. The Mortar Man. You
can sing them all tonight.
I don't know. I'm just singing mood. He's got a heavy pack with a bunch of bombs. Dan, what's your Mortar Man?
I don't like this one. I don't know what's going on with his helmet. He's got a cool revolver, but that's about all I can give him. I don't like anything else about this figure. His helmet is just weird. It's almost like a hat. It just looks like a Super Mario hat.
Yeah, Like he looks fine without the helmet, but once the helmet's on, he just looks too dorky. I realize it's Rich coming from me, a huge dork, but I don't.
Takes one to know one, right?
Exactly. It's a little too busy for me. Owen, where do you stand on
I remember
Morman?
my good friend had this one, but yeah, it was never a go-to. Like, oh, I want to play with that guy. Some of these figures, and I think you went over some like the Astro Viper last time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a lot of parts to them, and those little parts disappear, and then the cool thing about them disappears with them.
Sure.
So like Astro Viper, if you lose his helmet, he kind of is dorky, and his cool crazy jetpack thing. And this guy, his mortar thing breaks down to looks like 3 pieces. So I'm sure once you lose one of those pieces, you lose this whole cool stand.
Well, and we've talked about a few figures in the last couple episodes where the tops don't match the bottoms.
Yes.
This guy's got like 5 different colors of paint from the waist up.
Yeah, which is expensive.
And then the waist down just doesn't even look like it matches to me.
He's got some hockey shin guards though.
Yeah. I don't know.
A lot of times when that helmet doesn't work, it cuts out the character.
No,
it's not a good.
And it doesn't match the card art.
What's his name? Was he named after somebody like a CEO or something?
Yeah, Riley Thomas P. Riley.
Oh,
that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
I don't know. Just the guy.
I feel like this missile grip is unfortunate.
Maybe that's the whole design element is right there.
I guess.
I don't want to make one more figure for this damn line.
Oh man, sorry downtown. You're not cutting it. Not cutting it. Let's keep moving on to the Frag Viper, Cobra Grenade Thrower, Highlight.
Yes.
Has anybody ever played Highlight? I've never
played, but I actually saw it. I went to a Highlight event.
Oh yeah?
For whatever reason, I lived in Middletown, Rhode Island, which is there's 3 towns on the island in Rhode Island. So Rhode Island is like the mainland, and then Aquidneck Island is Newport, Middletown, and Portsmouth. I lived in Middletown, but in Newport, for whatever reason, from like 1970 whatever to I think the mid 90s, there was a Highlight arena. On the island. And so there were just like when we first moved there, they had like kids day, and so we all got to go watch Highlight and learn what cestas were and all of that, and we got free Pepsi frisbees for some reason.
Okay.
But yeah, and then like at the sort of public park nearby, there was outdoor Highlight rooms that you could just go and play Highlight. For some reason,
cool.
It's so random. I don't know why.
So this being a Rhode Island staple had to make it in there somewhere, huh?
I guess so. I guess maybe people made their way to Newport and were like, well, we got to put that in.
Yeah. Rhode Island's not very big,
It's lobsters and Highlight. That's what Rhode Island's all about.
It's on their state flag, I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
So with that background, Dan, as part of your upbringing, did you dig this figure?
I didn't get this one. I think my younger brother might have gotten this one because we definitely had it, and I love it. I love the idea of taking this guy probably should have been a dreadnought, right? Because you're taking the sports, it's the sports equipment thing and turning it into a tool of combat. I love the idea that he's not slinging balls around; he's throwing grenades at everybody. Just a great thing. And plus, yeah, good distance, speed, absolutely. Maybe he could bank it off a wall once or twice before it lands.
You can catch the enemy's grenades and throw them back.
Yeah, exactly. Very Tron-like, right? Like scoop it, and throw it back.
Yes.
And I love that, especially in the more in the card art than on the figure. The cesta itself looks like a claw. It looks like a giant, like mantis kind of claw. Really menacing looking, and I dig it. And then on top of all that, as if slinging grenades around wasn't enough, he also has a gun.
Yes.
It's just whatever. I love him. He's great. He's got that bug helmet. Awesome.
Yeah, the bug helmet's cool.
Yeah, and it is based on the cesta used in the Basque sport of Highlight. Yeah.
Yep. And this guy's on his way in classified.
Yep.
Oh, is he? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That should be fun. Owen, what's your Frag Viper thoughts?
Yeah, his helmet's definitely cool. He's got that weird brown bodysuit that looks like stitched up. But other than that, I mean, it is one of those like kids fantasy ideas. Like if you had a highlight kit at home, you go play this guy, you know, in the backyard.
Well, I had the plastic one every kid had with like the wiffle ball in it or whatever, and you sling it around at the beach or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, Frag Viper. He's fragging awesome. Let's keep going on here to Nagahide, the Dreadnought Poacher.
You have a Nagahide song?
I don't. I don't. What would be Nagahide? It would be like Rawhide. Nagahide, 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 Nagahide. Right, I'm in. Right, I'm in. Sorry. Nagahide, the Dreadnought Poacher. He's got a lot going on. He's got a cool boar. He's got a pet, Dan.
So weird. He's a poacher, but he has a pet. What's going on there? What's going on in that brain?
Maybe the pet was to hunt, you know, for him to hunt in your.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Yeah, he wasn't. This wasn't one of my guys. I didn't have him as a kid. Just, you know, as far as animals go, the wild boar just didn't really, you know, wasn't as cool as a wolf or like an eagle. Didn't really excite me.
Or a manta ray.
Yeah, manta ray. Devil ray, I think he was.
Oh yeah, devil ray. That's right. That's right.
This was one of my favorites as a kid.
Okay.
I remember
Owen,
picking
the floor
him
is
out.
yours.
So I remember picking him out, and a lot of my choices when I actually got to pick one out was accessories. I always wanted a sword with whatever one, and there wasn't a lot of swords in like these eras.
Not yet. Yeah.
And so he had a machete. Yeah, not yet. Wait for Ninja Force. But this guy, his loadout is awesome. He's got a rifle with a bipod, a machete that connects to his arm, a knife that goes in the sheath of his boot, a bow and a quiver, which you didn't get both of those very much, a removable hat, and then the pet. So it was like a loaded pack. And, so for me, he had a sword and a knife, which was awesome. And then the bow and arrow. Like I always liked in Lego when you had put the arrows on the knights because they had that asymmetrical thing going over the shoulder. So he had that too. It was weird because it was only sculpted on the back side of the quiver. So that, probably to an ease of molding that thing. But so, it's just flat on the front.
Yes.
But yeah, I really like this guy. I always liked the way he was sculpted. He's very crisply sculpted. Some of the figures are a little more mushy. This guy, his paint was very vibrant and his sculpt was very crisp.
I love his bow. His bow is fantastic. I love the shape of it. Yeah. It's a really good size. Like a lot of the guns are getting too big. Even the guns that are supposed to be small sidearms are getting too big. But that bow is great. Yeah. I mean, the knife sticking out of his boot is gigantic.
Yeah, I think you could put it in farther, but it would like bend, around.
Yeah.
But I love that knife. It's one of those things like in Classified, I find the knives too small. I want, especially when somebody's like main thing is like a knife. It's one thing when it's just the decoration that you can pull out, right? That's cool. Yep. But when it's like a main, like for Outback, I want him to have a big, survival knife.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
so,
I was thinking the same thing. I got Xandar today, and he has two knives, sort of his signature blade that goes in a holster, but then he also has the little sort of stiletto.
Yeah,
that sticks in his little back pouch, and it's like it looks cool when it's in the sheath, but loose. You're like, well, that's time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I haven't gotten my Xandar yet, but it's coming. But yeah, so I loved his pack out and the blades and the whole thing. And I was usually a good guy person because I was very, I don't know, my favorite Ninja Turtle was Leonardo, so I've got like that.
You got Leo energy. It's
same. Love Leo. Leo's
but guy. This guy was, he was just a good guy, and he has G.I. Joe tattooed on his arm and then crossed out. So you're like, oh, maybe he was once a G.I. Joe. And then did that.
There you go. Correct on it.
He's got big Jesse the Body vibes, especially in the card art.
Yeah, he was one. I was disappointed with his Classified thing, mainly because I don't like that gung ho body, that huge body.
Yeah,
it's a little too stiff. But and like his accessories were a little too mushy or something. But also because I think I liked this figure so much as a kid. It's
high expectations.
Yeah.
Nagahide's chest piece was reused in 1993 for Zangief for the Street Fighter Sublime.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on from Nagahide to the Heat Viper. Bringing in the heat, the high explosive anti-tank Cobra Bazooka Man. This guy's Dan sums down
across the board. Just nope. Big.
What?
Give me
Come
the
on.
3 big X's from Price is Right. Get out of here. I don't like his look. I don't like his colors. I don't like his accessories. I hate the nissels on his boots. Everything about him. I hate the asymmetry of his helmet. I hate it. I don't like anything about this guy.
Can you bring up the card art for this one?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's bring up the card art. Here we go.
Nope.
It looks cooler in the card art. The asymmetric face thing looks cooler.
Yes. Because he's got a black visor on one side and then like the silver is on the other side. And then he's got like more fins and stuff. This is one I remember my mom got me and I had to work for him, like do like homework and crap to get him. So, but I could like get parts of him at a time. And since he had like 50 missiles, it was like, like another missile and another.
Oh my
and the
god!
Tube and the other tube and
goodness gracious, there's a lot of pieces. She must have dragged
there's like 2 weeks of work.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, from my memory. So I have good memories of it, but yeah, he's overkill for sure. Just like neon yellow and purple and craziness.
I actually like everything about him aside from the head. The asymmetrical head looks stupid. And not that I'm against that idea, but like when you look at the card art, it just doesn't, like the figure and the card art, it doesn't do anything like that.
So there's also another like storytelling element here that's confusing. So he is, what is he, a bazooka trooper?
The Bazooka Man.
So, but yet the card, it looks like he's shooting flames.
Yeah.
I think the label, the
missile is
label,
already...
Yeah. The Fang label, though, I always thought was like something fire. And then, but he's got the bazooka rounds on his feet. So it was always very confusing. Is he a flamethrower guy?
Yeah.
Or is he shooting
Calling him Heat Viper, you don't hear the periods. You don't hear the punctuation. You go Heat Viper in that color scheme. Clearly, he's a fire guy.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think he was always a fire guy for me.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It still works. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anywho, Heat Viper, bring in the heat. Let's keep moving on here.
Please.
Tonight. Let's keep moving on to a different Viper. We got Night Viper.
He's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, go ahead. Why?
He's great.
Is
this is one that I don't know how slipped past my radar for decades. I don't think I knew this guy existed until like 2010, somewhere around there.
Oh, wow.
And once I found out about him, I quickly learned how fragile his parts are, especially that he's got those 2 pegs sticking off of his right thigh for his gun to clip onto, but those pegs break off all the time. It is very hard to find an opened one where those aren't broken, because people would put the gun on it and then it would just tear those pegs right off. They just snap off super easy. And then he's got on his visor, which is very similar to the Alley Viper sort of visor, but it also has that what are we calling them? Telescope, night vision.
Yeah, night vision
sight
goggles,
sort of sticking off of it. That peg can break off pretty easily too. So tough to find one in good mint condition, loose, but love him. Love the color scheme. Love the idea of him. Love that visor. Love his weapons. So good.
Yeah, it's dope. Owen, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, this was cool. Somebody had him when I grew up, and I loved him then, but I never had him myself. But he's cool. I remember in the 25th or following that, they made a similar one with like wings that would like cover. They were like supposed to be like camouflage wings, you know. But it was a really cool one.
Yeah, it's sick. The art's a little confusing. Like I thought it was a night vision thing, but I guess it's a little cannon on his wings.
What is going on there? No, I think that's just 2 people who weren't talking to each other, because I don't think I think the visor on the card art doesn't have the attachment on it. So that's just a peg sticking out of the visor, which I guess it's a gun. It can be.
Now it's a gun. Well, I mean, as a kid, you do that kind of crap all the time. You know?
Sure. But Clearly the art is because even this the arm here. I mean, we have two artists, looking at this right now. Like, what's the anatomy here?
Hang on. Go to the file card. It tells us what it is. Aside from its wide angle third generation image intensifier, directional sound amplifier, and laser range finder. It's not a gun. It's a laser range finder.
Okay.
The helmet boasts a passive infrared detector that can spot the body heat of a squirrel at 100 yards. Very important. Stay out of the squirrels.
That's small, I guess. But I guess the anatomy here, this arm is that's not good, right?
It's questionable.
It's questionable. Exactly.
It's squishy. Yeah. It's squishy.
Yes, not great. Not great. All right, let's keep moving on here to Recoil. The Long Range Recon Patrol LRRP.
This is where they started gluing guns together.
And what is that gun? It says pistol, but I don't know. I don't know.
If you're listening to this, it's like two guns glued together at the handle, so it looks like it looks
like they're still attached to the sprue, and you're supposed to break them apart. And that's probably what I would have done as a kid if I had actually bought or been given this figure, which I would.
Because both of those pistols individually look fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But together, it's just like, what are you doing?
And they're supposed to be together according to the card art.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of it.
I had this guy, but not his accessories, I think. Like a garage sale guy.
I didn't know if you did homework one day, but didn't do it the next day, so you didn't get the...
I always thought he looked a little nerdy. Like something about the glasses and the helmet.
Yeah. That the hat looks real bad on the card art too. There's some weird facial stuff going on there. I do want to point out his Geneva Conventions breaking bayonet on his machine gun, also mounted on the top, which I don't think I've ever seen that before, because his gun has a grenade launcher on the bottom too.
Well, he's welding all sorts of shit together. So.
Yeah, just stick it all on there.
Yeah, just wear it. Those pistols probably go on the rifle too,
that's true. Mega gun.
At the end of the day, as far as I was concerned, this boring army guy.
Yeah, kind of.
He was cannon fodder for sure.
Yeah.
But what's his suitcase? What's
going
on with his suitcase?
I don't know.
Never saw that before.
Looks like
it's got flashlights on the front.
So. Does that mean it's like
landmines?
Landmines, yeah.
Yeah, front towards enemy.
Yep.
Although this says his secondary specialty is radio telephone operator, so maybe it's maybe he's got a phone in that kit, or maybe that's what his backpack is because he's got the antenna on it.
He's got the bent antenna.
Yeah.
It's kind of just he's a bit of a hodgepodge.
With the digital camo.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's keep going to Rock and Roll version 2. It's been hey, Rock and Roll, good to see you. We got a 1982 figure being brought back here for 1989, and good God, his guns are insane. Dual wielding mini guns with full, this guy's nuts. Does he have an original gun too? Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
That looks like his backpack and his guns, those giant mini guns, look like they should be on something like Centurions. That to me doesn't really fit with G.I. Joe. It's just too much going on. And I was about to comment on how just generally conservative his uniform is. His first figure had the just straight up, green uniform with the bandoliers, and now he's got a sort of, he's still got that trademark crisscross bands across his chest. He got the bullets on his hat that aren't painted, but generally pretty conservative. And then these giant cannons.
But he's got that cool shotgun that clips to his leg.
That's cool.
Yeah. Break those pegs off, sure.
Yeah,
just like the Night Viper.
I love how he looks much younger in 1982. Look at all the crow's feet on this poor man's face. It's only been 8 years? He's seen things.
It's a long 8 years. Yeah.
But 8 years in the G.I. Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Fighting cobras, taking a toll.
Fighting snake people and
look at he's so a sun horn or wind horn on his face.
He straight up looks like he's just crying on his file card. He just
it is it? Okay, hold on. Let's I gotta pull that up real quick.
It's probably just
Oh my god!
Wow, yeah.
It's the same image from the card art, but yeah, he does not look happy.
No.
It's like, why am I still doing this?
Yeah, I'm carrying 800 pounds of, or it says on his this weapon, including power pack and factory loaded 100-round ammo drum, weighs in at 85 pounds.
And
So
how
he's got
old is
one-
he here? 58? Like,
He's got
come on.
one in
Yes.
each hand.
He's too old. He's getting too old for this ish.
He's from Malibu. He just wants to go back and hit the beach. Enough of this.
Exactly. Let him rest, G.I. Joe. Let the man rest. Did either of you have this one as a kid?
Nope.
No.
No.
All right. Rock and Roll version 2. Hey, glad you're still hanging around.
Hey,
Glad
yeah,
you're
good to
getting
see him
better.
come back, get
Yeah.
updated, and not get updated in a ridiculous way.
Exactly.
Except for
Yeah.
the guns.
Except for the guns.
Yes,
Except for the guns. All right, let's keep moving on to Scoop, Combat
man.
Information Specialist. I can tell Dan's gonna love this one.
I should. I feel like I should. And I think if this was something that came out today, I probably would, but at the time it just had no attraction for me whatsoever.
It's got that
I
camera.
don't
It's
know.
going in. How about
Like
you?
his helmet's actually pretty cool. I don't mind the color scheme, all the
Yeah, good
tech
color
gear and
scheme.
stuff. Yeah.
It's cool to get almost like a civilian, right? Like this is supposed to be a war correspondent. It's
Yeah.
actually a like conceptually interesting idea to do.
Mm-hmm. Kind of looks like
Yeah.
Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Maybe? No, maybe not. Maybe Steve.
Maybe
Guttenberg,
it's like based on one of the correspondents at the time, you know.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I like how the camera connects to the back of the satellite dish thing.
I had that backpack, probably from a garage sale.
I'm just noticing like one of the things he has on his chest, he just has like a straight up like Pentax like
Oh yeah, look at
camera.
Yeah, the camera.
He has like a calculator or something on his left wrist.
Oh yeah, it's like a Casio.
Yeah.
that. Then how many kids played with it so his camera was actually a laser cannon?
Oh
you know?
yeah, of course.
Absolutely. They probably did in the card art. Let's see. They probably have a laser coming on.
Yeah.
No, just the camera.
Mom, you got me the reporter. I wanted the machine gunner.
Hey, look, it's a glimpse into the future. He's a journalist with a gun.
Yep,
Uh,
we're looking at that now.
Hey, get that camera out of here. Nope.
yeah, exactly.
Don't give
Maybe.
Fox News any ideas, please.
Seriously.
It's gonna be fine. Everything's fine. Let's keep moving on to Snake.
Just keep talking about G.I. Joe, please.
Yeah, exactly. Just toys.
Keep
It's
it in
fine.
the fantasy
next
world.
40 years.
Let's go on to another revision. Version 2 of Snake Eyes, you could argue maybe is even better than version 1. Is the same true for version 3.
No. No.
Why, Dan? Why is
So
it no?
I think I mentioned this on either last episode or 2 episodes
I
ago,
think
last time we
so.
talked about figures. And I remember thinking like I had kind of half checked out. My younger brother wasn't quite old enough that he was really buying. He was, sort of doing Ninja Turtles, occasional G.I. Joe figure. But this one I remember thinking like, oh, hey, look, they updated Snake Eyes again. G.I. Joe has lasted long enough that we've got another reinvention of Snake Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of similar ID, still dressed all in black. Instead of the sort of grayish accents now, they put him in actual, sort of chrome silver. That's fine. Oh, the butterfly knives on his chest. That's a pretty cool thing. Wasn't really sure what was going on with the goggles, the eyepiece. Really didn't know what that was. And then the weapons were just, I don't know, weird. He's got a machine gun with a hook on it and a silencer. I don't know what that sword is.
Yeah, with the holes in it. Yeah.
And then are those nunchucks? I really, really didn't know. And then I have no idea what that long, I know what it is now, but I had no idea what that long barreled pistol gun thing was. What even is it? So there was a lot more work to look at this figure and know what he was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think for me, like I agree the weapons aren't as cool, but they're fine. It's the weird Speedo goggles thing that.
And if you look at the card
Takes
art,
me out.
they're actually cooler on the card art.
Are they cooler on the card?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
Spider-Man-y.
Yeah.
Little stealth Spider-Man there.
He looks way better on the card art, I think.
So this was my first Snake Eyes.
Oh, okay. So that's
I was, born in '83, so I don't know when version 2 came out, but it was
85.
Yeah.
'85. So yeah, I would have been pretty young. So this was my introduction to Snake Eyes, and then I found out through all the fold-out pamphlets that there was, you know, a cooler one. But I still love this one, mainly because he had a sword. But I think there was a lot, you know, he had a lot of accessories. Like the blow dart gun, I think, is mentioned on his file card, and then there's blow darts on his backpack. His backpack held his sword, which was always cool, and then his gun actually had a little loop on it too, I think.
Yep.
And his sword had that weird, like, you know, if you made a ninja sword now, what would it, you know, it's got aeration in it for
speed balls. Yeah.
I don't know. And then it had that cool, like, eagle claw. So, and the thing with Snake Eyes I always find cool is that he's almost a Western style ninja, right?
Yeah.
In version 2, they gave him like the knight's goggles. And his sword is actually, it's what's called a messer. So a German style sword that was designed to be basically a knife, because in medieval times, you weren't allowed to carry a sword around town, but you were allowed to carry a knife. And then a knife versus a sword was like defined in a certain way. And so in any case, his, you know, that version 2 sword is like that falchion messer kind of thing. And then in this too, his sword's very medieval, right? It's got like the fantasy medieval kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So I really like that too.
Like the eagle claw kind of.
Yeah. This suit got weirder in the comics, as I recall.
Yes, I've recently, heard
because he ends up, what it is there's like 2 guys that he's fighting are wearing. One guy's wearing, I think, the mask and the pants, and then the other guy has the shirt or something, and they're like one guy's Mickey Mouse in it, the other guy's Donald Duck in it, and and he basically like beats them, takes their clothes, and like that becomes his new outfit.
Well, why not?
Yeah, the skins of his enemies is basically what he's wearing. So we.
And one of them had the blow dart gun too, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think? Is it one of those things? Time has passed. Like, do you think there's more appreciation for V3 than
no,
or is it still just like, nah, it's just the past?
For me, it's not. Yeah, no. For me, I just kind of.
I think there's cool stuff going on with it, and what they did in the 25th with it was pretty cool because they gave him like the night vision goggles and the butterfly knives came off and stuff. So I think there's promise, if they were to redo it and classified, I could see some good promise that it would be cool. But
I appreciate that they've already teased version 4 and haven't touched version 3 yet.
Yeah. And version 4 was one of my favorites. That was, even though he's a little neon, there was a lot of stuff I loved.
Yeah, 4 I came around on. 3, it's funny. 3 I initially liked just because it was like, oh, Snake Eyes is back.
Yeah,
I have, like, at that point, my version 2 and my version 1s were long gone.
Yeah.
So it was just nice to have a Snake Eyes in hand again. So it would have been this Snake Eyes hanging out with version 2 Storm Shadow, the city camo, the Tetris camo, and it was like, all right, cool. The guys are back. My favorite guys are back.
Yeah. So there you go, version 3 Snake Eyes. Let's keep moving on with Stalker version 2, the Tundra Ranger. Cool. Again, nice getting Stalker back into the mix. Another kind of OG dude, and he's got a full on kayak.
Yeah, like this would be a deluxe. They'd call this a deluxe release today.
How did they not do this as a vehicle pack? That's crazy.
Like it's. Like this is a stacked figure.
Tiny little picture.
If you're listening to this, you're not seeing like the car. It is still a normal figure, but as a full on kayak in the bubble.
And the color scheme, I've always, and I guess it says Tundra Ranger.
Yeah.
I've always thought of him as being like, now he's a winter guy. Like he never was a winter guy, but now he's in there with snow job and blizzard and frostbite and.
He's wearing his olive drab with a white coat on. It's kind of a neat thing. Like the old figure just threw on a coat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then it's like, is it camo down here? It's just like a muddy pants from the boots.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's stepped in something.
It's a great knife he has.
Yeah, but talk about upping the bar for shoplifting. This was a challenge.
Yeah, like how do you...
Is that a canoe in your pocket, or are you happy to see me?
Yeah,
it's hey, it's a cool, like this. I'd never had it, but if I had the autonomy to just buy one that I wanted, like this would get it because you just get so much for a regular figure.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to get that figure out. You got to get that boat out, and then 7 other accessories.
And I mean, this is one of those, if you're at grandma's, right, and your parents buy you one toy, you don't have anything else. You got a whole play set, you know?
Exactly.
Oh,
like bath time.
Yeah.
You're in a pool.
Oh, yeah. Because usually these things floated, right? At least in the bathtub or something.
Oh, that thing definitely would have floated. Not like that little base armor gun thing, artillery piece from last week.
That
weird mask. Weird mask.
Yeah, the mask is weird. I don't know what that's about.
It's supposed to be like Gonzo.
I think I saw that in Eyes Wide Shut. I'm pretty sure.
It's not even on the card art.
Yeah, it's got that weird sloping.
Yeah, it's got like a snout on it.
Yeah, chin nose thing going on. I don't know what that is.
Is it supposed to be a hockey mask?
I don't think so.
I've never seen a hockey mask like that before.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, aside from the weird mask, swinger party mask, I think everything else is pretty cool. Soccer version 2. All right, let's keep moving on here to Target's the Trans-Atmospheric Rapid Global Assault Trooper. This was an accessory that is everywhere, but go ahead. Sorry, Dan.
I think this was the one I think you were talking about when you talked about Rocketeer-ish accessories.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This thing for sure. But I matched, I think we talked about, I matched this with, what's the other guy that looks like the Rocketeer?
Maggot, I think it was.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
So, with the helmet, yeah. Put this backpack on that guy.
Worms,
exactly.
Worms, yeah.
Worms, thank you.
Worms drove the maggot.
But yeah, a cool figure, got cool stuff going on. Owen, what's your thoughts on this one?
I remember I got this guy later on, and I traded like my brother's friend for, toy for toy kind of thing. And I love this guy. This guy was so cool. He had all of his stuff when I got him too. And
I have no missing pieces. That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's got a lot of little, he's got the tube, the G.I. Joe tube.
Yep.
But yeah, he's cool. He's an Iron Grenadier. I liked that faction for some reason, even though I wasn't, identifying as a bad guy at that point. It's like, I don't know. It's very jetpack, laser guns.
He's
very cool.
He's cool.
Yeah, he's breaking the color scheme. Once again, the Iron Grenadier color scheme. He's got the black. His gun is gold, but the rest of it is not really. Maybe some of that red is.
I think if they did all these guys in the black and gold and red, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would have just been such a great team. But then I also want to point out on the card art here, and I know that's hard to visualize if you're just listening to this. The helmet is completely different on the card art.
Yes.
And then the figure has the blue helmet with the gold visor, and then the secondary blast shield takes away all that spot of gold, so you're just seeing blue, which I always thought was kind of a weird thing. Like, put a sticker on that or something, even just a logo, whatever, anything to just break up
instead of the others.
Anything, just make it a different color. But that is not what's on the card art. The card art is almost like a gold visor that flips down.
It's the same thing they did to the Alley Viper.
You
see his eyes above the visor.
Yep. Very, very weird. And then, man, that jetpack on the card art is way bigger.
It's massive. But I like the figure one better than it being some obnoxiously huge jetpack. Like it's a big jetpack, but it fits him well. Like, it works. It seems functional.
And it's got the articulating wings.
Star Trek phaser.
It's the articulating wings is huge. Like for me, just like that little shoop, shoop, shoop. I love that so much.
I think they were geared too, right? They would come out at the same time.
Yep. Exactly.
This is a great figure, very mask-ish. Totally on board with this guy. This guy, Annihilator's awesome.
Yep, agreed. Darn good figure. All right, I think that wraps up the main release figures. We've got some more Night Force, which are repaints of Charbroil, Lightfoot, Muskrat, Repeater, Shockwave, and Spearhead. Owen, did you have any Night Force? These were the Toys R Us exclusives.
I didn't, but I'd like to defend some of them from
Okay, so
Spearhead and
you have
Max.
the floor.
the Spearhead and Max. Spearhead I liked a lot, mainly because he had that sword, and that sword is very much like a gladius, like a gladiator sword, you know.
Sure.
And I love that idea. Like, what the hell? I think it's probably just supposed to be a big knife, right? He's like kind of an Outback type of character, but
Sure.
It's, to me, it was just like, what was this guy, a gladiator? You know?
Yeah.
And then
his torso is very wide.
yes, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So you might be right about that.
And he's that texture, you know, some of the textures on these guys are really cool. And I remember that torso had a really cool texture to it.
I don't know if does this have a card. I'm curious to see if Max is on
It
the
does.
card.
Yeah, no, you have to go to it.
Black on it.
All right.
So first of all, we got to talk about the fact that Max is black now, right? So
Yeah.
he's
He
on
is.
Night Force. Did they paint Max?
It's the 80s, man.
Did they paint him on the squad?
It was
They're
like a hair dye.
they're
It
like,
was
they're
hair
like,
dye.
whoa, Spearhead, come back. You can't bring Max out looking like that. Not like that.
Too
Oh
long.
my god!
And then on the card art, Jay, when we talked to Carson Metaxas, he told us the story
Yes.
about them actually repainting the original art.
Oh my god!
We have been robbed of being able to see Max's painted in black.
Oh no!
'Cause the plastic bubble is covering up everything but Max's head. And
Maybe they
It's
could have
so
fixed it.
they fixed it by covering it completely.
Yeah.
Because it's so bad. Like, that had to have been on purpose. They arranged that bubble to cover up the absurdity of that bobcat. Oh my
I would have
god!
loved this pack though. Yeah, Muskrat was the other one I wanted to talk about because he's got that awesome shotgun, which they put in every figure in the Battle Core line, and then the machete, which they also put in like every figure in the Battle Core line, and then his surfboard thing. Like as a kid, I loved that idea that he had a shotgun, a sword, machete, and a
wakeboard,
surfboard that could go on his back. It was like such a cool loadout.
It's stuff like that when people start to get their little too concerned about G.I. Joe's it's a military action figure line. It's like no, it's not.
Like this guy is in like Vietnam camo too, right? And
well, that's what we talked about when the last time this figure came up. Was I always thought of this as being Snake Eyes,
sure,
pre-facial disfigure. Yes, exactly.
Yep, and it's weird because but yet he's got a surfboard for the swamp. I guess
exactly. He's gonna skiff the swamp
for everywhere. He's prepared for whenever that wakeboard is needed. When called upon, he's ready to surf to victory.
It's odd because those are two I'm looking forward to in Classify is this guy and the other guy. Yeah.
Oh my god! I hope Max is I don't know served well.
We better get both versions.
Well, in Spirit got a different named bird because they painted him.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
So I bet you they'll do something like that. And the animals in Classified have been awesome. So it's just been
two other call outs I just wanted to say on Night Force real quick. Are Shockwave, who this sort of urban night version of his, like he already was cool looking sort of SWAT guy. But this paint deco looks really, really fantastic as well.
Yeah, the gray is nice.
It works really good for him. And then Charbroil, still, sort of this sci-fi, science fiction, really heavily sci-fi outfit in those colors. I don't know, it just works really well for me.
Yeah,
I agree.
He looks
better.
There. Yeah, he looks like a Cobra.
He does look very cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And he still has a lenticular little panel.
I had that backpack too.
I think again, they show up. You don't know why, but they're there. All right, that's Night Force, and then we've got Python Patrol, the carded figures. What's thoughts on Python Patrol? Any fans, not fans?
I love it now. Like I think the Tiger Force versus Python Patrol thing was a really fun, colorway battle. But I didn't have any of these guys growing up, so.
Yeah, no, like I've said previously, I saw right through the scam
Yeah.
I wasn't falling for repainted versions, terribly noisy, obnoxious repainted versions of figures that either I already had or I didn't want. So I wasn't going to fall for that. And today I don't love Python Patrol. Some of the Tiger Force stuff I can get behind, but I don't know. Python Patrol for me just doesn't work as well.
You know how Classified did the Python Patrol bubble?
Yes.
I skipped that one, but I really want them to do a Tiger Force bubble.
Yes.
A little
Well, so what I was going to
bumblebee.
say was I really love the idea of the vehicles changing
Yes.
sides in these
Yep.
repaint wars.
Yep.
The tiger paw, the tiger rat, all that stuff.
Yeah. I think, for me being a little younger, it was like these were opportunities for me to get all these characters that I wasn't getting before. So
yeah, that was Jay's argument in favor of Tiger Force. Was Tiger Force Duke was his Duke.
Yes, but to me, like the Tiger Force designs look cool. I dug them.
I really liked the ones that were yellow and black. The bright color.
Yeah, those look cool. Those look great. I don't like this at all. And then going back to the Carson story, it's a travesty that they ruined the iconic, Cobra Trooper and painted
that
it
is
this.
a terrible explosion background too.
I was just noticing that. I don't think I've ever noticed that weird lightning jagged edge broken glass explosion.
But they had to basically paint over the original one.
Yeah, that's awful. We're probably not going to get to the vehicles tonight.
No, I don't think so.
But in terms of the switching sides, the Conquest X-29 repainted for Python Patrol is fantastic. We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. But yeah, Python Patrol, it's there, it's a thing. Sergeant Slaughter's Marauders, the carded figures, more repaints here. Dan, I know you hate the repaints, but did the Spirit do anything for you?
Nah, didn't like them then, don't like them now. Don't like them in Classified. I've passed on every single one of them.
I didn't even know they existed back in the day, and I don't like that teal or the blue, whatever it is.
The blue, it's just it does. I'm not a fan either.
The Classified one came with the itty ditty ditty bag, and I almost bought it for just that, but I did not.
Yep. Yeah, I don't. The colorways on the other figures, like, there's no way I would pick this barbecue over original barbecue.
Yeah.
Agreed. And then we've got drivers and pilots, but we'll cover those when we get to the vehicles. So that is all of the carded figure releases for 1989. Woo! Owen, what are your final thoughts for the figures of 1989?
I've got a lot of good memories of them. That was really fun to go over them all. I think between like the Annihilator helicopter guy, Naugahyde, Snake Eyes, Targat, Alley Viper, there were a lot of my favorites in there for sure. I was surprised because I also had a lot of favorites in '88, so it was good to see. But yeah, and then I think since I won't be here next time, I think Dark Lawn, I never knew really about that guy either, but the Classified one that I've seen like images of looks cool.
Yeah, so for sure.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
He's also been featured heavily in the new comics.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
There you go. So any favorites? What's your favorite out of all the figures?
In this year?
Yeah, in this year. What would be your pick?
I mean, Snake Eyes was a big favorite for sure. Now I would probably say either Annihilator or Naugahyde, I think, are my two tops.
All right. Dan, how about you? Final thoughts.
It was a year of extremes, like the figures I liked, I really liked, and the figures I didn't like, I really didn't like. And there were a lot more didn't likes than likes. Again, I can't say it's an all bad year. There were just too many that I actually did like. And Alley Viper is one of my absolute favorite action figures across the board of all time. So, if nothing else, it delivered that figure, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll kind of wrap up the entire 80s in the next episode, but even still, this last year of the 80s, when you could say quality or whatever was going downhill, there's still a lot of really good figures in this year. And so that hasn't always been the case in some of the other toy lines that we've covered. So, and I know we still have another 5 years to get into, but we'll do that later whenever we get to the 90s of G.I. Joe. But yeah, no, I really like this year. I think Annihilator might be my favorite, either Annihilator or Target.
Yeah.
I really dig and then the Night Viper. The Night Viper is really, really cool. So, but anywho, that is going to wrap up this. We'll cover the rest of 89 for the vehicles and stuff in the next episode. Owen, anything coming up for you that you'd want to share with people, or you can't share probably?
Yeah, I think everything I work on, you can't really tell. But they just, I think they showed the Flava Flav figure. And I did a lot of work on that one.
Oh, you did?
Someone else did the portrait, but I got to like sculpt his clock and his fur.
Yes,
that's a big deal. His clock's a big deal.
More important than his face.
That line is so funny. You know, it's kind of very similar to the Batman 66 line in engineering, but like, you know, Slash, I did Slash's guitar for it, and that was fun. And they're just fun things like to throw in, you know, with your classifieds and stuff, because they, you know, they're 6-inch exactly, so they'd be like normal people size.
Yeah.
But, that's fun. The superpower stuff, you know, whenever that next wave comes out, that's my last go on superpowers. And there's that Robin was a big deal for me because that was my first superpowers figure I had. Yeah, and then we're working on some fun stuff on the stuff I am working on now. So hopefully that we'll be able to share stuff with that in the next few months. But
awesome.
I've been kind of shifted over to the sports line and the Music Maniacs and the Movie Maniacs stuff, which is a little less toyetic, but you know, still a job and it's still work, and
exactly
I'm enjoying myself. So.
Still fun to be had. But awesome. Well, excited to see what comes out next for you, Owen. Dan, what's going on for you? What's coming up there?
We just today we put out our history of the Dukes of Hazzard. So check that out. And then next week we got our member exclusive video, which we threw out to a vote for our patrons, and they picked Godzilla 98, the Dean Devlin, Roland Emmerich reinvention franchise.
I vividly remember going to see that opening night, thinking I was going into another Jurassic Park. You know, I was like, oh, it's gonna be just as good, whatever. And I was like, I don't think I like that.
Yeah.
We talk about that quite a bit. How far can you go before you know, it's no longer the character? Like, you know, you wanted to make a Godzilla movie. Where's Godzilla?
Yeah.
He's expensive.
yes. I remember that trailer. I still remember watching that trailer and just like, oh my god, it's gonna be so
talk
good.
About like the sort of beginning of market saturation advertising.
Right?
Like you could not go anywhere without seeing Godzilla stuff.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, awesome. Well, that is gonna do it for this episode. Again, thank you to Allison Troy, who does our research. You can watch these on YouTube if you're listening to it, or if you're watching it and you'd rather listen, you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can get podcasts for free. You can listen to it there. You can give comments on the YouTube channel or send emails to Toy Geeks Show or toygeekspod@gmail.com. And until next time, hasta luego and goodbye.
Later.